This is a real throwback for a couple of reasons. It's Krystal Ball back on Rising. So automatically we're going back in time a little bit to back when Krystal Ball was on The Hills Rising. But if you can believe it, she's actually, this is from before Sagar was a part of Rising. If you remember, for a brief period of time before Sagar went on Rising and met Krystal, she actually had a co-host. I think his name was Buck Sexton, which is a funny name, but he's still a commentator. So super interesting. And Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk come on here. It devolves pretty quickly and just turns into a total food fight. Really, really interesting debate here, little discussion. I'm excited to break it down and get your opinion. Zach, I'm assuming you haven't seen this one yet.
I haven't. I do know who Buck Sexton is, and I actually didn't know until right now that he was the original co-host of Rising. That's fucking hilarious. I'm going to resist the urge to make some ad hominem attacks about his appearance and just play the clip.
Yeah, let's take a listen to this. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about the substance of this debate, because I think there's a lot of revealing answers here, especially from Candace.
To talk about the intense state of politics right now, we have Charlie Kirk, founder and president of Turning Point USA, and Candace Owens, Turning Point's communications director. They're in Washington to meet with the president. Welcome to you two. Can I just first ask, what is this event, and what are we going to be seeing the next couple of days here in D.C.?
You know, we had received so much interest over a period of time in this sort of youth Black conservative movement. And it felt like we really wanted to harness the power and the opportunity and invite everyone to DC, first and foremost, to bring them to conservative ideas. A major hurdle that the Black community faces is not having the resources to get to different ideas and sort of being locked inside of a bubble. And having them listen to speakers that they perhaps haven't heard before, Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, people who are routinely mocked in our community. So this is the first ever opportunity to do that in DC. And we're really excited that it's happening this weekend.
Charlie, what are you hoping that the president gets out of these interactions?
Well, I first want to take a step back and just give Candace Owens credit for changing the national conversation around these issues from a conservative kind of perspective over the last year. When I first met Candace, one of the first things she said, Charlie, I think we can have a young Black leadership summit that can be a lot bigger than any of the, pundits or the consultants would ever dream. And I mean, tomorrow, 400 plus young Black leaders from across the country. That's an accomplishment that, especially of a conservative, tilt, if you will.
And the number could have been much higher.
That's right. And so the number could have been higher, and it was the last minute influx of interest. And we had probably 5x that in applicants and in inquiries. But what Candace Owens and our urban engagement director, Brandon Tatum, have done at Turning Point USA to really garner more interest amongst the Black community for conservative values, I think it's worth having the conversation. And it's something that, given all the recent, news and attention around these issues, I think is something that will be quite interesting tomorrow.
Candace, there's obviously a bit of skepticism. As long as I've been in the game of conservative politics, as long as I've been a conservative, which is probably about sophomore year of high school, there have been conversations about how do conservatives win over more of a Black community. There have been some prominent leaders. You mentioned Dr. Ben Carson, others who have come forward and have tried to get this conversation going. What are you seeing that's different now, really? Like, why is it? I mean, to Charlie's point, he's saying that you've changed the conversation. How? And why is the conversation different?
It's funny that you say that, because I was able to meet with Dr. Ben Carson early on this year, and we spoke about that. Like, what are the differences? Why are people paying a little more attention now? And I think that, and to his credit, in the past, the conversation was almost so intellectual that it was hard for people to digest and process and to understand. And because the left had won the culture war, it was easy for them to mock them, to see a skit.
Did she just say that Black people weren't associated as much with the Republican Party because the discourse was what'd she say? Let's go back.
In the past, the conversation was almost so intellectual that it was hard.
So he's like, why do you think only more recently Black people have started to become interested in Republican policies? And she's like, well, beforehand, it was just too intellectual. Now we've dumbed it down a lot. So these Black people can, they can also get on board. It's like, do you even realize how racist you're being right now? Just talking? Fucking crazy.
People to digest and process and to understand. And because the left had won the culture war, it was easy for them to mock them, to see a skit where perhaps Dr. Ben Carson or Dr. Condoleezza Rice are being mocked. And I think I'm a little more of a fighter, definitely in terms of starting my channel on YouTube and wanting it to be colloquial and wanting it to feel familiar, like you were talking to your brother and sister, and sort of taking back some of the turf that was lost on the culture war by making fun of people on the left in the same way that they make fun of us. I think that sort of helped bridge the gap and make people more interested in having the discussion.
Does it bother you that there's no prominent African Americans in the White House itself? Do you think
Sure,
that's
there is.
important?
Jaron,
No,
Dr. Ben Carson's part of the executive branch. That's not true. You know that's not
Well,
true.
within the White House
Jaron
itself.
is an executive with
What
Jared
is,
Kushner.
what is his role?
He's a DAP, which is a deputy assistant to the president of the United States, which is the top tier. So that's not true. You know,
Who
that's
are
not true.
other individuals
There's
in the White
one
House?
black person in the White House. Trump, I swear to God, he's a real ally of the black community. There's just one random ass guy that's associated with Jared Kushner. Don't worry.
I want to go back and answer your question. So,
Yeah.
and one thing that we always speak when we speak to conservatives about is we have to stop believing in this illusion that because somebody is black, they represent my interests. We learned that lesson via Barack Obama. I mean, he was in the White House for 8 years and didn't do much for the black community.
Oh yeah,
so I'm
because
not
Ben
interested in
Carson
color
really
people's
does
skin.
represent
So
the
interested
black
in what
community's
they do.
interests.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in your perspective.
Yeah.
So to you having, like, you don't look at, you know, it is an administration that has more white men than past administrations have had.
Yeah.
But that doesn't bother you. Don't think that diversity is
No,
important.
not at all. I think that we have to stop believing that diversity is the color of people's skin, because if you have like the Black Caucus, for example, which didn't stand up and applaud when Trump announced that we had the lowest ever unemployment in the black community, that's concerning to me. So a big part of the conversation that we open is in making people understand that's an illusion that the left has sold, that somehow because somebody matches my skin color, because somebody matches my gender, they have my best interests at heart, and that is completely fallacious.
I have to ask about Kanye. You two have been seen, photographed with, spend time with Kanye. I got a tremendous, we have to speak about it on the show, got a tremendous amount of attention from the media from a recent meeting in the Oval Office. How does he factor? Look, you know, I feel like conservatives play this game that we go back and forth. If anybody who's famous starts talking in any way that conservatives like, we embrace them right away. And then sometimes we feel like we get burned later. They're not as conservative as we thought. Kanye has such a huge megaphone. He's obviously somewhat of a controversial figure as well, based on what he said in the past. Charlie, I just to start with you. I mean, how does he play into all this other than, I mean, I want to hear from both of you on this, but how does he play into all this other than just getting a lot of attention? You know what I mean? How is he changing the
I'll be
conversation?
the first one to admit, I mean, I was your typical macroeconomic loving kind of conservative individual that wasn't part of the culture that, you know.
You got a high paperback in your bag.
I know what I
it's
mean. Like I became
yeah.
a conservative based on reading Frida Choose and Ludwig von Mises. And this is on record with our friend Dave Rubin saying this back in September of 2017, kind of predicting the Kanye movement, I guess you could say.
The Kanye movement.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that word, and I think that's true.
I've sort of followed
Hormone.
Kanye's career for a very long time. So when I was asked that question of who I admire, I said Kanye West, because he's always been, long before.
And again, the only real hypocrisy is that the right wing, as soon as the left holds up any celebrity, anyone from Hollywood or anything like that, they're like, all you have is celebrities. All you care about is elites in Hollywood. You don't actually care about normal people. You're just the party of Hollywood. And then as soon as any entertainer, any Hollywood celebrity comes out as a Republican, they could not fucking embrace them more.
Bro, Kyle just put out a fucking clip 45 minutes ago. We were already going live, so nobody, what? Yeah, and I just wanted to break in. We'll finish this and everything, but it had the exact same headline that we used, which I just thought was interesting. Joe Rogan's subreddit, all capital letters, turns on him. Oh, Kyle may have been watching the Vanguard for a second, guys. Hope he was. He put out a clip. He reacts to David Dole's content in it. Maybe we'll get around to it, but very interested to hear what he's going to have to say about his good buddy Joe.
Yeah, I do want to get to the explosive part of this real quick, but I'm down to react to some of that afterwards if you want. Okay, cool. Yeah, stick around, guys. Sit tight. We're going to finish this up real quick, and then we're going to watch some of Kyle's new video about Joe, because we were just talking about how Kyle's community constantly calls him out for simping for Joe Rogan and defending Joe Rogan. So let's see if maybe that's done, and Kyle's now, in no uncertain terms going to go after his good friend Joe. Just like Bernie, Kyle also has a good friend Joe.
Personality wasn't going to be able to exist comfortably on the left anymore, because we are now being told what to think, how we have to think, who we have to love, who we have to hate. And that's not comfortable for anybody that's an artist. And their stranglehold on culture is really what Kanye is sort of taking a stab at. Now, I want to be clear, based off of my conversations with him, he's not a Republican, and I think that that's an important thing to distinguish and to make clear distinction to make, because in many ways I've said I'm not a Republican either, but he is a free thinker and he values ideas. And unfortunately, if you believe in the ability to think and to have a dialogue, that is a position that's on the right today.
So Candace, I do want to ask you about news of the day. Obviously, we have all these explosive devices that have been sent to prominent critics of this administration.
Right.
And in a tweet, you originally said you thought there was zero chance conservatives sent bombs. I think you took that tweet down.
Yeah.
But you later added, it isn't conservatives that are chasing people down in offices and restaurants. It isn't conservatives that have weaponized sexual assault as a means to political gain. I stand by my opinion that when it comes to political violence, the left is the likely culprit.
That's correct. So we've seen that.
So you think that it was the left or Democrats who sent
well,
these pipe bombs?
I think we're all entitled to have an opinion. We don't have any facts surrounding this, and Twitter is a venue where you're allowed to express your opinions and beliefs. And
but certainly, so that's not based on any facts. That's just your
it couldn't possibly be based on facts. We don't have any evidence other than the fact that they're investigating it. But
I'll cover Candace's.
I do want to finish this by just saying that it is my belief, when you take a look at the conversation, the things that have gone on and the increasing violence that's gone on, it has purely been a leftist tactic to stall things, delay the administration, and to fearmonger. So as a matter of opinion, I do believe that when we get to the resolution, the bottom of this, and we do have facts, we're going to see that this is orchestrated by the left, but by no means is that opinion rooted in any proof, because we don't have anything yet.
I could certainly point to Charlottesville. I could point to other acts that happen. I could point to Dylan Roof. I mean, there's certainly acts of violence that have come from.
But do you see how far back you have to go to do that?
Charlottesville?
That's literally starting at the beginning of his administration. Look at all of the things
that's
that have
actually
gone
not.
on.
I don't want to have this debate because ugliness can come from both sides.
No, I'm just saying that you.
But I do want to ask you though.
Just answering the question.
I mean, you've got a big platform.
I do.
Right, and you have a powerful voice.
Thank you.
And kudos to you for creating that.
Thank you.
How do you view the responsibility that comes with that?
I view the responsibility of just being a person that maintains my ability to have an opinion, that I express an opinion, and no means that I say that I have just found the facts and this is related. Yeah. And I always
reserve the right. There's 0% chance.
Yeah. I said I'm going to go out and say that there is a 0% chance that this was sent by conservatives. I find all the things that are going on, the caravan of illegals, the packages that are being sent,
and you think just to clarify, you think the caravan too was organized by Democrats? I find it to be
incredibly suspicious timing, so that they are meant to get to the border on the day of the election. Again, this is not rooted in facts, but you do have to understand.
As if the minute an immigrant reaches the shores of America, they immediately have the right to vote. It's like, yep, here's the ballot box, cast your vote for Hillary. Like, bro, even if there was this caravan, which obviously there wasn't, now we're a couple of years down the road and everyone realizes that for what it was, which was a total fucking boogeyman, a total fear mongering, Fox News talking point. But even if it was true, even if the caravan had reached America on election day, those people wouldn't have just been automatically able to go vote for Democrats. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Anyway.
Yeah.
And Twitter is my platform.
Candace, I have one more.
Just one more here, because I wanted to get to know you before you came on. And I'm really interested in your perspective because I think you're a fascinating person.
Thank you.
There was another tweet that said, the Democratic Party is comprised of racist white liberals.
That is correct.
Am I a racist white liberal?
Well, let's go back. And let's say, I will say this, that many people in the party are not aware of their own racism. Let's go back to an early part of this conversation where you said to me, are you concerned about the color in the White House? Why would you ask me that question?
Because you speak about Black issues.
No, but why would you ask me? But let's get to really the nucleus of this. Why did you ask me that question today?
Because
why did you feel that I needed to be concerned about that?
Because you're bringing a whole group of young African-American leaders to the White House.
Okay, so this is something that I talk about often, is that in many ways, white liberals don't realize that you put on that the racism and the conversation that we have.
So you're saying I'm a racist?
You haven't let me finish my statement. You keep cutting me off.
Go ahead.
Okay, the emphasis that you place is always on having a discussion about race. Okay, you guys are insistent on having a conversation about race and telling us that we should see and implying that
they literally came here to talk about race. Like, they came here explicitly to talk about Black people and Republicans and how now there's more Black people that are Republicans. Krystal Ball asks a question that is directly tethered to that concept. And what does Candace Owens immediately do? Calls her a fucking racist, which is what these people always accuse the left wing of doing when they don't have an actual substantive rebuttal. What do people like Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk say all the time? They always say, well, all the left has is the race card. You talk to a lefty, and if you get to a certain point and they disagree with you enough, they're going to call you a racist because that's all they have. What did Candace Owens literally just do? All she has is to call Krystal Ball a racist and say, well, you're a racist because you asked me this question. Actually, you're a racist. It's like, you're doing what you constantly criticize lefties for doing. This is all you have, is calling people racist, even though that's what you constantly criticize us for doing.
Race everywhere, and I don't agree with that. If you don't look at me according to the color of my skin, you would simply ask me how I thought that Trump was doing as a president. But instead, you try to drum up a conversation that surrounds
you. Literally came on here to talk about race.
You're bringing a whole group of young Black leaders to the White House.
Color, I don't.
That's something that's important to you.
Well, why are you talking about
color? I don't.
Why make it
at the very beginning of this interview, she starts off by talking about oh, like so many more black people are joining the Democrats, and it's thanks to me and Ben Carson, and isn't it great that black people are now Republican? And then 10 minutes in, after being lightly pressed, oh, I don't see race, I don't see color. What's a black person? For all I know, we're all white people. I don't even know what that means. It's like, bro, your whole premise as a fucking commentator is that you are the black Republican. You are the black friend of the GOP. Don't act like it's fucking crazy that someone's going to question that premise. Not even question that premise, just bring up race. And then you, again, turn around and do the exact same thing, which the left, you always pretend the left does, which is criticize people and accuse them of being racist when there's no grounds for that accusation. Totally hilarious.
That you're going to bring young black leaders to the White House. I mean, this is sort of absurd.
Because the media, as in the whole,
this is absurd. You're bringing this group to the White House.
It's not absurd. I'm making perfect sense.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
I'm trying to be extremely clear with you.
I know.
Bringing the black conservatives to the White House.
Me as a racist white
I think
liberal.
that you're not. First off, you put those words in my mouth, and you keep saying it. So I'm not. I said that the Democrat Party is comprised of racist white liberals. Is every person in the party racist? No, but you're not aware of the fact that you put these racist tones out into the media. This is why we have to bring the black conservatives to the president, because you create a narrative when you're on TV like you did today.
Are you comfortable with? I'm going to have you on radio later because I have questions for you. I have questions for you as well, but we actually have to get out of the segment now.
Do you think that language is helpful, though? I mean, just in terms of the national conversation.
Well, I could ask you, do you think it's helpful to ask me just because I'm a black woman if I'm comfortable with the amount of color that's on the administration? Do you think that that's helpful?
I think it's helpful and interesting to know your perspective.
It's not. It's you just trying to create an undertone that Donald Trump is racist, and it's wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen to me is the reason why.
No.
I just want to say.
You're looking at me on the basis of my skin color, making a bunch of.
This is the exact thing that like. This is word for word verbatim. This is the finger wag is the perfect fucking pause point too, because Candace Owens is embodying right now every criticism that she's ever made of the left, right? The finger wagging, that keep moving the conversation, making everything about race, fucking everything. When she literally came here, she literally says at the beginning of this interview, as Gavin pointed out, the reason that black people weren't Republicans before now was because it was just too academic, too intellectual, too non-colloquial or whatever the fuck. It's like, oh, that's what you're going to say about that. And then you're going to say, well, we are trying to get 400 black Republicans together at this thing tomorrow, right? And Charlie is so proud of you for getting all of this black engagement. But the second she pushes back on it, like, this is racism, this is prejudice. Like, this is exactly what the right wing pretends the left is. They always are their own caricature.
Here's
what I want to say.
You quoted a tweet and then you made it about me.
I appreciate.
You were not added, but you were not added in that tweet. So do not say that I called you that, because that's dishonest. And we are on TV. So you can run.
Racist.
Okay, so I did not call you a racist. You're using the typical leftist tactic of trying to make yourself a victim, which is not what I want.
No, but we're actually well beyond.
Well, she's making herself a victim and pretending that I came here and called her racist. So this is a typical leftist tactic.
That we not demonize our opponents.
And I think it's important that you not demonize my president.
And one thing that I try very hard to do is to criticize the policies and criticize people who are in positions of power.
I'm not sure how you were doing that by pointing out the color in the administration.
But not to criticize the people who support the president.
You literally spoke
That's something I try very hard to do.
But you're not doing a very good job of it.
And I think it's really important.
I think it's really important that you be aware that just because I'm a black woman, you don't need to ask me a question as basic enough as saying how much color is in the administration.
To demonize our fellow Americans?
I think what's problematic is that you are creating a simulation that is dishonest, that is accusing our president of being racist based off of the color of the letter in the. That's exactly what you asked me a question. That's what you implied.
Okay, I actually really appreciate you two coming in very much, and I look forward to getting to ask you some questions of my own at some point later on. And we're gonna have to end the segment there. But thank you, and good luck at the White House today. And thank you.
Buck Sexton's like, oh, please don't. I'm not trying to burn this bridge. I actually like you fools. Unlike my co-host Krystal Ball, who smells your bullshit immediately and called you out on it. But yeah, hilarious exchange. Obviously, for one, it just went off the rails, and they're talking over each other and stuff. But as we pointed out, Candace Owens, it didn't even take her 10 minutes to devolve into the exact caricature which she and her ilk paint of the left constantly, ad nauseum, every time it comes up. So pretty revealing, pretty hilarious. And I do have to say, as much as I like breaking points, one thing that I miss from the old days of Rising is that I feel like they would bring on guests, and they would really like chew them out. Like they really would get into these kind of heated exchanges, and go to bat in a way that I don't see happen as much on Breaking Point. So if there is one thing I missed from back in the days of Rising, it would be those kind of exchanges.